Everyone, welcome to the awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of fmtraining.tv, where every day we are doing great FileMaker training. Very enthusiastic about the platform. At least we try to maintain a high level of enthusiasm. That's my job or my goal as I center myself on TV. Moving along, let's check out the upcoming broadcast schedule. I'm going to click over here. Today is special operators. Woohoo! It's kind of some basic stuff in FileMaker, but I can tell you that if I went to senior engineers across the board, I don't think anyone could present and name all these and tell you exactly what they're for. Very few people. Let's talk about operators today. So Margaret is here. Margaret, if you have questions, feel free to let me know. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to take a look at this issue right here. So this has to do with finding data, right? So Margaret, can you do me a favor, get with Jacob real quick, see if we can get a link to a database where we can do searches in the database, like the big mega repository one. See if we can get Jacob Taylor to get us a link to that, what server it's on and what the username and password is, so we can get in there and use that. Because then we can show kind of that kind of data a little bit. But the idea is that if you're in the FileMaker platform, I'm just going to open up a random copy of it here. So I'm going to tell it not to update. I'm going to tell it to not update this version right now. So I'm using 20.1. None of this has changed or will change. This has been this way since the dawn of time. So if you're over here in FileMaker and we've been wrecking things and blowing things up, the big thing to update, and we're going to go through this, then we'll look at higher performance options or what this looks like when you do finds in FileMaker at large scale, like millions of records. But if you're in find mode, you enter find mode, most people at Command F, they go to a field, they type something, they hit return, done. Okay, now what is that search that you're doing? That is a wild card search, essentially. So if I did a search in here for Richard or RIC, and I hit the return, I don't have enough data in here, probably nothing's going to come back. Oh, there's one. Okay, so, but notice it found Richard or Rick or, you know, it's a wild card search. So if I go back and do a refind, Command or Control R is refind or find again, but it stands for refind. This is a wildcard, which means that we don't really care what comes after it, okay? So the way this works in the world of FileMaker is certain characters are reserved. They're reserved, so if you put them into a search, FileMaker is not just going to store the character, it's going to allow you to do special requests based upon that. So if I go over here and I say operators, these are the operators right here. We're going to go through each one of these, but understand that these are reserved characters, and these will be active if the field definition is is set for default indexing. So here's the thing, if you think about this. So you're like, well, there's an ampersand sign right there, right? And you're like, so isn't that in emails all the time? And if it's reserved, how can we use it? You can put the data in a field. That's not really the problem. If you come over here, there's ID contact, other ID things. Let me bring this. I'm going to change this. Yeah, see, it's got all these conditions on here, right? It's the problem with sometimes with starting point. You need a really dumb database to demo this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this one here, drag it down here. I'm going to put email in here. Email right there. Okay. So here's the email field, right? So there it is. So here's the deal with this. You can have, and this has also caused a lot of frustration and confusion with new people. So there's John. Okay, layout mode. I'm going to get rid of this, get rid of that. I'm going to make this really basic. So here is your email. So you're like, how can the ampersand be a reserved character? Well, if I create a new record and I say Rick at rcconsulting.com, it doesn't throw a fit. Doesn't throw a fit at all. But if I say I'm going to go into find mode and I'm going to do a search for Rick at rcconsulting.com, doesn't find it. And you're like, well, that's screwed up. And the reason this is this way is that Claris wanted to reserve certain characters to help you with your find requests, okay? And those characters, they can be data entered, but if you put them on a find, Claris FileMaker is going to see that little ampersand means something special, right? It means something special. You can have a star over there, you can have quotes over there. And so what this ties back to, if you go into field definitions, file, manage database, command, control, shift and D. So I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut going forward. Here it is. I go to email. There it is. and it says text and it's indexed. Now, by default, you're going to use the localized language for wherever you're at. So you use the German version, the US English, or the national English one. I think there's only one English now. By default, this field, this is nothing I set up. By default, your default language, I'm in English. Some of you are in German. Ruben is, I think, German or Dutch, wherever he's at. And so his would say something else. It would say German, okay? And so the equivalent character in your language is still reserved. And when you create a new field, by default, it will be set that way. And so what this means is that, for example, in English, when you do a search for the letter A, it doesn't care whether it's lowercase or uppercase A. Have you noticed that, right? If you do a search for Richard on a little r or large R, it finds either one. It doesn't care. So by using this indexing right here, certain characters are reserved and the searches are more quote, quote, relaxed. They're a little more friendly for the end user. But there's these little weird hangups where if you try to search, like the most obvious one is the web page or is the email. Email at, and then your apple.com, steve.jobs@apple.com, right? So this is the default behavior. Now, if you change this to, and we covered this briefly the other day, if you come down here and change it to Unicode, if you go to Unicode right here and you change it, that means it's going to take a very strict interpretation when doing a search on this field. It also affects relationships, but that's a bigger conversation. I'm not going to talk about that. The short version of this is that it's going to now, all right, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to come and do a find over here again. Let's see if it took it. We're going to test this to see if it works. So if I do a search for Rick, I don't think it took it, which is really interesting. Let me just try to do a search for Rick at rcconsulting.com. I'm going to select all. I'm going to copy. I hit return. Oh, it did. Okay, it did take it. Notice before I did the ampersand, it wouldn't take it. Now, this was a search for Rick with a lowercase. What if I do a find for, so it found this because the first three letters matched, okay? What if I do find for capital Rick, R-I-C? Doesn't exist because we've gone from the relaxed searching indexing of your native language, and I'm just going to say English. I'll just assume all of us are English speakers, is whatever your language is, your default language. But instead of it using the language specifications with a relaxed search, it's going to take it very super literally, and the little r and a big R are different characters, okay? In your head, they may not be the same characters. In the world of computers, those are different characters. They're different ASCII numbers. If for those of you have a programming background, some of you don't have a programming background, have no idea what I mean. Every character, uppercase, lowercase, every little tilde, every little pi sign, exclamation point, everything has an ASCII code. It's a number that represents what it looks like. Now, this is for English. There's ASCII for all these other languages too. They've all been set up. And so what FileMaker does is it takes a relaxed view of that ASCII code, like a big R and a little r. It's going to like help you. It's like, yeah, we're going to let that go, okay? Because we want FileMaker to be friendly and not like some sort of SQL, mean database. It's mean. It's not user friendly, okay? So the rub is that if it's in a relaxed mode, then Claris, since we're doing relaxed stuff, we're going to take some of these characters out and use them. The ampersand was plugged in and used in FileMaker long before there was ever email was a thing. This goes back to FileMaker 2, Pro 2 in 1990-91, right? That was before I ever saw email at all. Some of you might have had an Apple Link account or something like that, or you work for DARPA, but that was before Apple was thinking about, or Claris certainly was thinking about this. Otherwise, if they were doing this today, they probably would have not used an ampersand as a reserved character because it became this one's kind of an awkward moment for people because it's like, it doesn't make sense. Let's talk about what these characters mean in a relaxed state, okay? If I go over here, I'm going to hit Command 0, bring this up. So this talks about finding text and characters, and this is kind of like the simplified conversation of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close this one and open up the more detailed version of this. It's called refining find requests in FileMaker Pro using find operators. Okay, so these characters or these sets of characters are reserved if you're in the default index state for your language, what I would call the relaxed search. So equal sign will allow it to find market, right? It'll find marketing services, but it will not find the word marketing. So by default, normally, if you just type market in, it's a wild card, any word that starts with market. And it could be Markalicious. It's a new type of drink we have. So if you do a search for mark or market with an equal sign, it's going to look for that exact word. Super important. Equal, right? It's not looking for the exact word. It's the exact match on the field. This pretty much mimics the way FileMaker will work if it's set to Unicode. And that Unicode used to say ASCII in there, but these days, because emojis now have codes too, right? The little happy faces and the little pile of doo-doo, the turd, the happy poo, right? They all have codes, right? So what they've started to do is they had to take ASCII and grow ASCII to include other things as well, et cetera, and that's where you get into this idea where it's Unicode, not ASCII. It's, from our perspective, it means the same thing. So these are all the reserved characters and what they do. Okay, so equal is great, equal is great. The other one is interesting one is the quotes. To search for more than one word beginning from the start of the field. So if I'm searching for Martin and Jones Interiors, it finds Martin's and Jones Interiors, but not James and Martin Interiors. So it's looking for the short version. That quote is going to look for that exact string, right? So let's try another one here. It says LTD, finds all the kind of LTD in the name, but not those without the comma, right? So yeah, you see what I'm saying there? So really, this allows you to do kind of this exact search, uses a wildcard character part of the search. So if you search for that, you're going to get gray and or gray. Now see, they swapped out the one character, right? And what is it when you want to search for an empty field? It's just pound sign, right? Just pound. Pound sign finds the empty ones. What's that? Let's try this a little bit. So let me go into this real quick. So we have a really great sample database for, all right, let me do a find here. So I'm just going to find for the letter C in here, okay? And it does a search. That's pretty damn fast. It returns 70,000 records of the almost 800,000 records. If I do a search for find cherish, okay, then we've got 767 people that have that first name in there. Now, if I do a search for chair, C-H-E-R, share, okay, we get all those. But if I do a search, now this, I'm guessing this has relaxed indexing on it, right? So if I do a search for little C-E-R, yeah, see, it works either way. So if the little C and a big C work, you have the relaxed indexing, which is the language default mode. So if I want to find exactly CHER, I could do quotes little CER like that. Is that there? Does a search. The FileMaker server is like, oh, I got to work on this a little bit. Oh, it's a little more work. And then it finds that one, right? Because they're relaxed, right? Now, what if I say equal CHER? No records match request, right? So that's where using these characters are real interesting. So you can do exact searches. In fact, this page right here, greater than or less than, is really useful, I think. And then if you're searching for emails, make sure you put the email address in quotes, right? That's the way to do that one. You put it in quotes, it'll find the exact. So if I go back to over here, I hit cancel, I've got CMAR, whatever. So if I do a search for copy, find, paste, I wonder if this is, okay, I'm going to do a find again, or I'm going to do a refine, Command R. I'm going to change that to capital C. Does that work? So this has a relaxed indexing on this field right here, or the relaxed search criteria, whatever you want to call it. It's essentially, it's more user-friendly, less programmery, right? I'm just saying, it's going to let people get away with things they wouldn't normally get away with. Okay, so then what if I do a search for refine and I put an ampersand here? Okay, that doesn't work. So what if I do a find for paste that and I put ampersand in it? But we know that's going to cause problems, so I'm going to put it in quotes. Yeah, put it in quotes. So that will find, this is a good one to remember. This will find everyone with CMEIR at anywhere. At Apple, at Claris, at Microsoft, David says, if I want to find an exact email, I have to write the find. Yes, I would put it in quotes like that. Well, we could try that, because sometimes look at this, it's a little confusing. So I know if you do a search for it in quotes, all right, try that again, find. If I put in quotes, that works. Now, what if I do Command F, find, I do equal, and I paste it. I think that this character right here, I think that ampersand right there is gonna, it's when you put it in quotes, it's not gonna be activated, right? But it's gonna be activated here. I think it's gonna get mad at me. No, it found that. That's interesting. There you go. But what if the very first record is, let's make this let's have a little fun here with this. I'm gonna grab that, delete that, move this down. There's some sort of trigger on this. Can I validate email? Yeah, we don't need that. Turn the validate off. Turn off the super hidden stealth Harry Potter invisibility blanket. Browse. So now it's, oh yeah, that's one thing. So now there's only one record here. Now what if I put CMEIR? Okay, so we have that in there. Okay, so let's do it. Let's do the find again. So we're going to see if we get this first record here. Okay, so if I go find and I put paste in there, so we know that that won't work because that's a reserved character. If I redo the find and I put it in quotes, will it find? Because remember, when you're doing a find, it's for every word. Normally, by default, FileMaker is searching for that in every possible word combination and or every other value that's in there, like a value list, right? So remember, we're searching for something that's on the second line, right? Not the first line, the second line. Ah, found it. Okay, pretty neat. What if I search for refind? I do equal. We do the equal. My guess is it's going to, let's just try the one equal. I found no one. Oh, because it's, well, okay, let me try that again. Refind. Let me try equal. Oh, see, now it's not doing it. So that's where I would put it in quotes. So for the emails, you want to search on quotes. In fact, at one point I thought, because I have a sales guy, some of you have met Ryan, and I thought about whenever he did a search in the email, I would always take it and do like a trigger interrupt on a script. And I would grab what he put in, then run a script that would go into find mode and put what he searched on inside quotes. Because it was all like, hey, boss, I know this email's in here, and I do a search. It always comes back, it's not in here. But then I can find the record other ways it's in there. What the hell's wrong with FileMaker? Literally the conversation. And so I'm like, do I want to explain to the sales guy how this works? Or do I want to write a script trigger to kind of Harry Potter or the penguins of Madagascar? You didn't see anything, boys. It's all invisible, right? So let's try that. So that's a question from David Angels. You have to put it in quotes. You could also, I think, escape it. So I think they were doing the escape key. If you look at the text here, was on this one. They were doing the escape. They were escaping it out. And that was on the previous document where they were escaping. Let me go back one here. Oh, here we go. So yeah, so operators non-numeric. So finds an ampersand. So if you could do a quote, it finds the ampersand. If you do a quote, finds three spaces, right? If you just do a search for equal sign, like you just do a search for equal, it's not an index search, but it will find all the blank records. If you learn one thing today, find me all the blank records, just put an equal sign in there. There's 9 records that are blank in there. That is what I just gave you is money. So here they're escaping it out with a /. So what if you escape it out that way? I got her. I'm going to do a find. I'm going to paste. I'm going to escape with the, not the /, it's a / or whatever it is. That one. Let me try that. So that escapes it out. It tells you that that character is not supposed to be taken as a special character. You escape it out. But I mean, trying to teach my sales guy that's a failed effort because he's going to get the wrong. See, I knew enough to go. I knew a / would do it, but I forgot if it was which one. And so if I have to go back and think about it, my salesperson is going to lose their mind and just throw their hands up in the air and say, good work.
How would you teach your end users this? Would you have buttons that would preload the operators into the text fields so they could click a button and do specific search? Or do you see what I'm asking?
The only places is, okay, so let's talk about the most common searches we run into. This is why I mentioned the fact this was all created before really the advent of the internet, and as crazy as this is. Your users, the common things they want to do is find on an email and the little @ sign, the ampersand sign, is one that they're going to have to put quotes around. You have to teach them that. The other one is searching for empty records. And then the other one, I think, is a star pound sign. Is that what it is? If I do a search for is it pound and star? What if I just do search for star? Let's just try that one, star, with nothing on it. That finds me. Yeah, there you go. So if I flip the found set, the star finds all the records. It's like the inversion, right? It's the inverted of the pound sign, right? But what if you refind star and pound? Is it star and pound together? This star, I think, is normally one. So star finds all the values, all the records that have any value in there. And then the pound finds you all the records that have no value. You have no value. You're valueless, right? They're blank, totally null. Okay. So those are the two that you're going to run to, that and searching for email. So find something in here. Yeah, now it's lost its mind. I'm not even sure. That I used to do. I remember doing this back in the late 90s, and I don't remember what pound star asterisk did. It's obviously causing the FileMaker server to lose its mind. I can hit cancel. The question is, will it really cancel? It seems to have canceled. Interesting. All right, cool. Oh, back in the old days, you hit cancel. And it's like, keep doing it, but don't show. What it meant was keep doing it, keep dragging the computer down, but don't show me the results. I'm gonna randomly find a record. So I'm gonna do a find. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to escape the @ thingy symbol with this one right here. And then you can find, there's that. And then, or you can put it in quotes. And I like it when I say apostrophe is apostrophe and people say single quote. It's like, dude, that's an apostrophe. What's a single quote? Like, what's a single quote? So this is the special operator stuff. So the biggest issue is to understand the indexing. So you can flip it on or off. And if it's on, then you can use the special operators. If it's off, then you have to do an exact search for that field. In fact, if we turn it off, I don't want to turn it off on the database with 800,000 records because I don't know what it will do to the FileMaker server. I mean, it'll work eventually within 5 or 10 minutes, but I don't want to kill the show because of that happening. Other questions we have on this topic. It's pretty basic, but it's important. And you can also do searches, by the way, on greater than A, right? Or greater than M, right? You can do things like that. So it's going to do a search for a word with all the, so A, B, C, they have a chronological order to them, right? And so you're doing a search that's greater than, right? So all the letters that come after it. So there's 518,000 records that have M or higher on the little ASCII score, right? There shouldn't be any
That's a good way of
A's.
like alphabetizing a report, I guess.
Well, or finding half the database or whatever, right? Yep. Yeah.
And then operators is also the term for the same signs, but they're used totally differently inside of calculations, right?
Yeah, if you go to operators in FileMaker, it'll differentiate between logical operators and various other operators. If I go to operator, usually this conversation about text operators, logical operators are greater than or less than, things like that, pretty straightforward. And so you can and or this is where you have a greater than, less than, or not equal to, that kind of stuff. These are all useful to know, but really this isn't such an issue with indexing. We're talking about indexing and searches, which also would affect how the relationship works, right? Because remember, the relationship uses the index, right? If you change that ASCII code index, you'd want to check to see how that would affect your relationship. Okay, I'm not going to swear on a stack of Bibles what it's going to do. I just know that let's talk about things that use indexes. So this is a test question. If you have a FileMaker file, okay, this is the test question. If you have a FileMaker file and you have a field in there and it goes so fast with indexing turned off, if you turn indexing on, name two things that will run faster because the indexing is turned on. So they will throw the idea of sorting in there as going faster. Now Hansa, I think, has attempted to establish that it will be a smidge faster. Sorts will be a smidge faster with indexing on or off. I think that was an outlier. Okay, the sorts don't use indexing at all, but finds use indexing, relationships use indexing, and value lists shenanigans, and autocomplete will use indexing.
So which of those two are the faster ones? Finds and relationships will go faster if the indexing
Well,
is turned on?
relationships work and finds go much faster. And some things are just totally dependent upon indexing for the most part, which is relationships, and it was the relationships and the valueless and
Valueless.
autocomplete.
Yeah.
Now, sorts you would think would make sense to have them indexed, but historically that was never the case. So if you do a test on it with and without, the problem is for us to add a sort and do the test over here. Doing a sort on 800,000 records, even with a good server. Now, this is newer versions of FileMaker, so you probably could do it. It would probably do it on the server, right? And that's one of those things where they did summaries and sorts and things like that. If the server is not too busy, it was a performance enhancement with 19.7 or 20.1. They in 19.6 or 5, they added the idea that if you have a summary field and the server is not too busy, the server will do it for you. If you think about it, the server could always do these for you because it does them for WebDirect. You're like, well, what does that? Think about it. The browser doesn't do any work. It just displays your data. It doesn't sort, find, do anything. FileMaker Pro and Go do sorts and finds. They do a lot of the hard work themselves. With WebDirect, the WebDirect is taxing on the server because the server has to do all the thinking for you, which means it can do it for you if it's sufficiently compelled to do so. And Claris was always, I remember talking to Clay Mackel about this, was always scared to death of turning this on. And so what they did is that if the server is operating at or below about 25% usage, horsepower on the processors, it will do the sort for you and the summary fields, right? Things like that for you. It'll handle them for you if it can and do them for you. And when I say if it can, you could have a sort or some sort of search or something that's dependent upon the screen size of your computer or some weird thing, right? Just trust me on that. There's local get functions that are dependent upon your current situation. The server's not aware what your current situation is really. So for things like that, it's not going to do them. If the server does them, it just chews it up, processes it, and gives you the results. If you have to do it, the server is going to send you down all the data you need to do it. So in order to sort 800,000 records, it's going to send you the data for 800,000 records through the network. Yeah, you're laughing. It turns into a giant ugly moment, right? And so one of the things is that you always want to minimize or manage your found sets. You can have millions and millions of records. The trick is having your found sets to be somewhat smaller and more manageable. If you have a found set of 80 million records, you're going to have performance issues, noticeable performance issues, okay? So
how would you resolve the found set of 8 million? We just have to organize the database differently.
So say you're over here in the host screen and you have a fat database. It's huge. Well, if you're going to go to contacts, what I would do, and you just want to drop in there and you hadn't done anything previously, I would have it arbitrarily give you the first 1,000 records in a found set, something like that. Or you could do it within a script, like a lot of times in starting point during the startup script, we have it navigate to the various data entry screens so they preload and they pre-cache. The startup's a little longer, but the loading is faster, right? Because it's already in cache. Well, the same thing, you could actually, instead of going to those layouts, you could actually have it go to those layouts, set the found set, because if you go to the context here and we set a found set, say I just search for all the ROs. So now we're going to have 20,000 records. And now say we did that in the startup script, then we navigated here and we left people here. And then it all happens really fast off the side of the screen. They come over here, it's fast, and they're seeing the first 20,000 records. They're like, well, how did it come up with 20,000? Well, because we arbitrarily picked something for you, so you wouldn't sit there and have it watch you try to display 70,000 records. I understand the issue of, well, what if not 70,000, 70 million records, right? It's the issue. Well, I'm on a form screen. It should only show me the one record plus the next 25. There's some overhead that goes into that. So you've got that going on. The other thing is that you get into these issues, like see these little calculations down here. Since this is here, I'm going to spend a moment and show this to you. A lot of you either have not seen this or seen this before. So when Nick originally built starting point 6, as you flip through records, you have this kind of pregnant pause thing that goes on. Let me go back here to the beginning. It's like, so if I click the record, if I click display, click display, click. So if I'm going to randomly jump forward here, click, display, click, click, display, click, display. So what it's doing is that, and on this layout here, these are all summary showing related records. It's counting, it's doing relational data. This is pretty damn fast. We built this years ago, and the products got faster as it goes. FileMaker Server, FileMaker Pro getting faster. So then we built this layout where I don't think it's showing them at all. See, and you see click, and display is almost immediate, right? Bam, 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 bam. And then this one right here is a script trigger. So it'll run, and then after it displays you the information and you're already looking at the screen, it updates the numbers. Well, yeah, but you want to see, but okay, think about it. Okay, I'm just going to do it a couple of times and think about, I'm just going to jump ahead somewhere. So here we are. I'm going to hit after. Okay, I'm going to go to the next record. Okay, so what it does, see that? So the deal is with this design, with this methodology, odds are someone's flipping through records and they're not like totally dependent upon that little box right there, right? It's like, God, I got to see this number. It's the most important thing in the world. Okay, they don't give a shit. It's a nice to have thing around the periphery. Okay, so if it takes it a moment to update, because the rest of the data, I'll see if it keeps it right here. I'm going to 1, 2, 3, click. See, everything else update. See, I'm going to come up here, and so there's the address down there, right? Here's this. I'm going to click 1, 2, 3, click, display, and see, and it can be more pronounced if the server gets slower. Okay, so it's giving you all the essential data. It's like the whole idea with thumbnailing in FileMaker. Okay, it's giving you the quick thumbnails now, because odds are you probably don't need to see the whole thing right now. Okay, so what Nick did is I love Nick. Nick built this thing like this, and when you got into large records, it wasn't unusable. It was just a little bit. You click, display, click, display, click, display. Flip a record here. Click, display. If you do it this way, then it displays it immediately, and then you get this refresh of the numbers down below. Now you might say, well, that's disconcerting. It should do it immediately. Okay, you can either have the whole thing be delayed or just the numbers be delayed. Choose one of those two options, or remove all the numbers entirely, which I think is this one right here. All the numbers are gone, and then you don't have to worry about it updating.
I like the fact that you have the options to do that. That's actually really cool.
We built this as a performance demonstration. That's why this file's here. We don't actually build this a starting point. I think you just get the before, I think, in that way. But you have room for growth, personal growth. You can grow your solution. Other questions?
What happens if the email field was stored as a Univode?
Unicode?
I think he means Unicode. Hold on. I believe the case sensitivity won't work as well, but what about special operators here?
They're gone. So if you're trying... There are no operators. The operators are removed because you're doing a search for a quote. Like if you have a quote in there, the double apostrophe. Yeah, the operators are ripped out and removed. That's the whole point. When you go to Unicode, the relax search is turned off. The super precise search is enabled, and you're searching for exact data in there. Okay, if that makes sense. I mean, you could search for like a wildcard still. We discussed that. Like you type RIC, and as long as those RIC is case sensitive and correct, it will find anything that starts with RIC. But generally, once you turn Unicode off, see, the rub is you could turn it off for like the salesperson, but then you might have a capital or something in email. We all know that capitals and emails don't mean anything in the real world, but if you turn Unicode on, then they would mean something. Kind of an interesting 6 and 1/2 dozen others. So tomorrow, we all have Nick. So I want all of you to be on your best behavior and show Nick a warm welcome tomorrow, because he's been having withdrawal symptoms from his audience, being with his audiences, being with his peoples. All right, everyone. See you tomorrow with Nick. Hopefully he's going to behave. Please encourage him. We want him to feel welcome, right? Yes, yes.
It'll be finances too. It'll be interesting discussion. FileMaker's capability and
cool
weird requirements in other countries.
All right, that's it. You have a good evening, everyone. Thanks. Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!